there, crafty peeps. It's Rhonda from Rhonda World 365. I'm back with another tutorial. Now this one is a card tutorial, card making tutorial. I have done them in the past, but I think typically they were uploaded to my Facebook page. So this one likewise will be uploaded to my Facebook page, but it is going to be uploaded as well to the YouTube channel. Now, what I'm going to be making is a Mother's Day card, and that's this card right here. I'm going to go ahead and move these. I'll move them off over here. So that's a Mother's Day card, and the tutorial, I'm going to make that in front of you to show you all the techniques that I use. And I'm not getting a lot of clarity here, so I'm going to go ahead and raise it up here. So it does say celebrate mom, happy Mother's Day, and then these are die cuts, and I'm going to show you what we used and kind of go over that as well. So let's get to it. So I'm going to move this over. Okay, so that's what we'll be making. Let's go ahead and see what we used. Okay, the die cuts, those little flowers, they were made by this, it's called Blooming Details die set, and there are 9 pieces in it. A few of them are these little, like, open, kind of swirling shaped flower shapes, and they make the die cuts that I've made here. And then there are the 2 flowers, which we have the little one, and then I have the larger one. And I also have, let me check here, I also have a little gold leaf, and then I have a series of other little leaves here. So we're going to use those, and that's going to be the basis of our focal point for these flowers that you see up here. And then the sentiment, the Celebrate Mom sentiment, is from this set here. It's Annual Celebration. There's 11 of them. And Celebrate Mom, you can see, is up at the top. There's a Father's Day. There's a whole bunch of others. Pretty much anything that is a typical holiday. So that would be another one. Now these are available in my Fun Stampers Journey store. So you could go to my store, funstampersjourney.com, and it is under Rhonda Kaske. That's spelled Kaske. And you could order these if you like, if you feel that you want to do them. Or you can also mimic, like I say, mimic the ones that mimic whatever you need on here with something that you have of your own. But they are a lot of fun, and they're very versatile. So I did write down the measurements for the card that we're doing, and also the colors that I'm using. So that's Grape Fusion card base, and then Lavender Fusion layer, and then a white or whipped cream layer, and then Grape Fusion for the little center band. That's right across here. And then white or whipped cream for this little sentiment box. And then these are the those are the measurements that I've used. So the card itself is 4 1/4 long by 5 1/2. So 4 1/4 wide, excuse me, by 5 1/2 long. And then incrementally I went in. The Lavender Fusion here is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then the whipped cream would be 4 across by 5 1/4. Now the whipped cream has these corners. They have been cornered, so they're a little softer, and the sentiment as well. The band itself is 4 across, and it is a we went 1.5 inches deep with that, and then 1 1/4 inches deep with this sentiment box, and 2 inches across. All right, so those are the measurements that you'll use, and I'll put that out again at the end of the video. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to assemble our flowers, our pretty little floral designs. So you'll have, I have 3 flowers. Now the reason that I'm showing you how to do it step by step is because I'm actually going to, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a chance to win a set. So I do have this set here, and it is a giveaway, like, and I'm going to put that in the heading so you'll know this is a giveaway. It's to make this card, you'll have everything you need. The sentiment's already punched. The items are already cornered. The only thing that you'll need to do is go ahead and distress the edges of your flower, which I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. And you definitely do not have to do it my way. You can do it any way you like. I am using the Grape Fusion color on my my little dauber here, but you can use any purpley color, or if you want to contrast it, a lavender color, or you could always opt for a whole different color. Any color that you feel might pull it in, or whatever color you have. A pink would look fine on this. Probably a blue would be okay as well. You probably wouldn't want to use black, stay away from black, but you could also vintage it up a little with a brown. If you do something like that, you may want to even take a little bit of the brown and vintage the sides of the whipped cream paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this like so around every edge, just because we want to give that flower just a little more color. So if you can see that there, I'm trying to get the camera to focus. It's being a little bit of a pain. But the edges of the flower just need a little depth. And I'm doing the same thing with this darker flower. And as you can see, the edges are just getting just a smidge darker. And all we're doing is we're just adding an extra level of depth to the flower. Just a little something to give it more interest. All right, that's all we're going to do for that. That's more than enough. Now, this top flower right here, these two go to the larger flower. That's this one right here. Is going to be layered internally. So all that means is I'm going to take this little lavender fusion flower and turn it over. I'm putting a pop dot on it, and then I'm going to mount it. And I'm kind of mounting it so that the petals are in different places, so that the petals hit the recesses of the other petals. Perhaps not perfectly, but enough. Then we're going to take our first of the spirally flowers, and as you can see, I've punched them on gold mirror paper, or die cut them on gold mirror paper. And I think you could use silver, you can use whatever color you want, but I love the mirror effect. It's giving it just a little extra interest here. It gives it just a little bit more than your average just plain flat paper color. So I'm going to use my Journey Glaze. You can use glossy accents. You can use any glue that you like. It doesn't have to be that. Now, Journey Glaze is a fast drying glue. Works wonderful on paper. Works on a whole lot of things, actually. But since it is so fast drying, I do pop the edge. And I've had mine for quite a while, so I've been using it a lot. I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to put a dot. I flipped over this gold mirror paper, and I'm just going to put a little dot. Ooh, that's a little much. All right, so I've used quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of that off, because I definitely don't want that. And then I'm going to flip it over and just center it up and stick it down. And it's already pretty much setting up. I'm going to wipe my finger here off on my handy dandy baby wipe, and we're back in business. Okay, so that flower is just about done. Now what I've done here is I've added some jewels that I happen to have in my stash. Now you can add whatever jewels you have in your stash, or the other trick is you could punch out a circle using just a regular hole puncher, and you could use that in the center as well. You could ink it up, you could do whatever you want, but I'm just embellishing the center. So on here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this little lavender, lavender jewel, and it's going to take a while. There it goes. And just drop it down. So center it. And I like to use my X-Acto knife. I know there are tons of people out there, and I've had my X-Acto knife for forever. If you can tell, I use my equipment a lot, so there is quite a bit of use on some of these. But my X-Acto knife, I've had it for a while. I know there's a tool out there that'll help you place gemstones, but I don't use it. I use my X-Acto knife. Oops, jumped off my hand. Okay, so that's our first flower. It's really kind of pretty. We're gonna set that aside. Now our next flower is the little one. So we're going to do something very similar. We're just going to leave that flat. We're going to take the Journey Glaze and a little dot in the center of my my mirror paper, my mirror die cut, and then I'm going to try and center that up and drop that into the center there. So there we go, that's right over top. And again, this time I am going to add the jewel one more time, just because I think the jewels give them a finished look. If you like it just as it is, you certainly do not have to add a jewel. In the packet, the giveaway, I have added jewels, so there will be 2 lavender jewels for these. Alright, so now I'm going to set those aside, and they're done. I'm happy with them. They worked out really well. I'm going to wait for a second. Alright, so now I need to start assembling my card. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work this little square. It's going to be my sentiment square. And my cutter has been a little bit rough on me lately, so it's giving me a little bit of fuzzy edges. I need to change the blade. So if you ever get something like that, you can just usually brush your nail down and it'll nicely sharpen up those edges in a pinch. And then you'll salvage having to change your blade. So one more time. This time I'm going to go ahead and go in and ink. And I'm inking up my sentiment. Now, I would recommend pat, 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 and not a ton of pressure, because when you're patting, you're layering. And when you layer that ink, it gets on there nice and thick, nice and even. Now, if you look at my Happy Mother's Day, the little banner at the bottom, I want to make sure that all around that is black. And that looks good to me now. So I'm going to center my little acrylic block with the stamp on it over top. Stamp down, press to the center, press to the side, 1, 2, 3, raise up. Alright, that's all I did. So that's done, and I think that went over pretty well. And before I get too carried away, I want to clean my stamp off. So I use a baby wipe and just quickly brush over it. Now, of course, I tell all of my classes, because I do card making classes here in Rockford once a month. I tell my classes, though, you should always clean them off with a baby wipe. And then once a week, you want to really, especially anything that you've been using a lot, you want to go over it with the real cleaner. And Journey sells a cleaner. And you can, of course, buy the Journey Glaze or the Journey cleanser. It's a stamp cleaner in my shop, or there are a variety out there. So if you have it, great. If you don't, there's plenty of places you can get it, and you can get it with Journey as well. Okay, so what I've just done there is I used my corner punch and I went around the corner. So I've only done 2, as you can see here, and I've done the opposite corners. That gives it a little bit of an effect, kind of like there's some little points off to the sides. We're just giving it a little bit of extra notice. Alright, so next we're going to get the card base involved. And I score my base with my scoring tool. And mine is so old, it's not even funny. But I love it, and I swear by it. So you're going to see some mingled issues going on with my scorer, my scoreboard. Alright, oops. Wait, what's going on here? Oh yeah, there we go. Alright, so that was fine. Okay, so I went ahead and scored my card. It's ready to go. And then I am going to go ahead. Now, if you can see, there's 2 sides to a score. There's the raised edge where you had pressed down into it, and there's the little well that you had initially pressed down into. Now, most people don't know this, but that raised edge right there, you're going to actually fold over on top of that. And that's going to prevent your cardstock from ripping and or bleed through. Some cardstocks have a white base under them and they bleed through. And you can use your boning tool to give it a nice good crease, or your finger, whatever you've got. Alright, so this is my first layer, and then this white one is my second layer. But my white one on here has the 2 corners, the opposite corners, the same opposite corners that I used on my sentiment tab are cornered. So I'm going to go ahead and corner those real quick. So they're ready to go. I've got corner edges, soft corners here, sharp corners on these 2. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this guy. Alright. Now I do little swipes with my adhesive runner. Now I've been using this one for a while. We do sell one through Journey, but I almost always use this one because it is a little cheaper and it's what I've always had on hand. However, the one from Journey will last you a little longer, and it's a very good quality, so you're definitely getting good quality there. It's definitely up to you and it's personal preference. So once you've gotten that, and the big thing you remember is to get that into the corners and to get a couple on the edges and then a couple in the centers. There's no need to cover it, there's no need to goop it on, but if you want to use your regular like paste sticks, glue sticks, you can sure do that. By all means, you'll get the same effect. It'll be fine. Okay, so what I've done is I've centered it into there, and so as you can see, it's centered and it gives it the first layered effect. The second one I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. Same thing, making sure to get in the corners, making sure to get a little on the edges so that we're making sure that it sticks down. And I'm just going to put 3 little ones in the center. It'll be fine. It's not going anywhere. The edges are my key. I must get them in the edges. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and center that and lay it down. So now this is our card so far. And I'm really liking it, but inside it might be a little difficult to write on. Ooh, we got one of those little plastic pieces. So because it is so dark, it may be a little difficult to write on. So let's go ahead and help our writer out, our card giver out. So I'm going to take this white cardstock. Now this is an inside piece, and it is measured to 5 and, let's see, it's 5 3/8 by 4 And let me take a look. It's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And that's just to give us a little bit of an edging of the Grape Fusion color on the inside. But then at the same token, we're going to make it so that the person who wants to use this card can actually write in it and someone could see what they wrote and they don't have to worry about that. Alright, so there, that one's layered up in there. And now this is where we're at. It looks good. And we're on to, we're going to start assembling the pieces. So the band, I put it about 1.5 inches from the bottom is where, or 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches from the bottom is where the bottom of the band should fall. And it will go all the way across the white. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and use my glue runner. I go ahead and I glue runner all of the corners. And I get quite a bit on here, probably because I get carried away because it is a detail and not necessarily a, not necessarily something large. But anyway, so I line up this edge here first. And once I know that I've got that edge flat, I just drop it across. And it's going to go ahead and go in a straight line for me. Now, if your corners are off or if your edges are off, that's when you'll have some problems. But what we're going to do is pretty much going to hide something like that. So we're just going to wait. Down here, the sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and glue runner that. And the sentiment is just barely off of the edge of the edge of the band. So it's measured so that it will fall just barely off of it, so that it looks like it's sitting in there, but at the same token, and there's borders, but at the same token, there's still room. So the larger flower and this leaf go together. And as you can see on this one, it flares off. That's what this is going to do. Now, I used my Journey Glaze. You can use glossy accents, or if you really don't care, you can just use your glue runner and zing it across. That won't be a problem. You still should get the same effect because you're going to hide a lot of that with your large flower anyway. But in this case, I really liked, you know what? I also have a pin ready to go for my glossy accents and for my Journey Glaze because they dry so fast. I just have to sometimes give them a little breakthrough. So I just run a tiny little glue line across that little bottom portion of the edge, portion of the leaf, just the stem. And I kind of eyeball it and flare it out right about there. And if I don't like what I see, I've got a couple of seconds worth of adjustment time. There we go. Okay, like that. And I think he might have gotten something on him, so let's pull him off. There we go. Okay, so he's on there, and his little flower component has to go with him. And we want to take up a little bit of the leaf. Not all of the leaf, but a little bit of it. We're taking up a little room here. So, the next thing I do is I hold the big one, and I whisk my glue runner down on all the petals. And then a little bit in the center. And it's ready to stick down. Now, I want you to also notice that while I did center the centers of these, I did not necessarily make sure that the leaves were all centered upon each other. There is some, some movement here. There's a little bit of whimsy, just to give it an added effect of like I say, whimsy, or not necessarily, I don't want it to be so coordinated, so structured. I just wanted it to be a little off. So there we go, that big flower's down. Now the next one is the littler flower. This one you have a little bit of leeway with because we're going to put I'm putting a 3D dot on it. So it's ready to go with a 3D dot. Now that means that I have leeway to work under it, over it, whatever, or work it over something else that I need to do. So I'm going to just kind of move it around here to see where I like it. And I think I like it like that, just barely over the corner of the other one. All right, so there we go. I've placed my second flower. The last is the petal. The last for the flowers is this little gold leaf petal. Again, mirror paper, punched out the leaf. I added some glue runner to it, and I'm just going to pop it in right there. And then we're going to bring out our little embellishment dots. And they are just a black jewel gemstone that I found a bulk amount of, and I did include them in the giveaway portion of it. So I'm having trouble with this little guy here. He doesn't like. So I do put one right here, one on the celebrate, just because we want to make sure we include this little sentiment plate. Then the first one, we'll do a large, and we're going to go to the bottom. We're going to go to the bottom flower, the bottom of the flower here. So I'm going to put a large somewhere right about here, and then I'm going to take a small and place it right about there. So both of those are sealed on there now, and I'm going to go one more time. And I'm going to come back up and bring it around here. These black ones make, I think they pull the black sentiment ink into the whole card, and it kind of just gives the card a little cohesion that it needed. Alright, so I'm going to put one in between these flowers here, because we've got all this open space, and I'd like to see that some of the flair and pizzazz follow out into the open. Alright, and the little one is going to go just up here, right by this top leaf. And then last but not least is the last large one that we have. Whew, I'm shooting them all over the place today. And that drops right there. And that's all there is to it. This card is made. It's fun. It's fancy. It's the mirror paper, the gold mirror paper, just gives it a little something extra. It gives it more added glamour than it would have probably already seen. And now if you really want to go wild with it, you could always make sure that you corner your card base, corner the first layer, even corner the inside base. It's up to you how you do it, but that's this card. So I'm gonna leave it there, and if you're interested in this kit, it is a giveaway. So I'm gonna give it, this video will be up Tuesday, so I'll give it until Sunday. I'll make the drawing Sunday, and all you have to do is if you like this video, like it, give me a little comment on it, and then I'll put your name in the drawing. If you haven't already subscribed to me, please subscribe. There's going to be more giveaways to come, and you don't want to miss out on those. But yeah, go ahead and give me a comment below. Tell me what you liked. If there was something that you were hoping for more explanation on, please, by all means, let me know that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck. Until tomorrow, keep on crafting. Bye.